it's a very sophisticated backlash because a lot of people will tell you that they are against rape. Rape is very, very denounced in North America or in mainstream society, but they are for the paid rape, which is that's the difference between prostitution and rape. Men's pay for exercising the control of women's body, or they rent women's body, which maintain men's entitlement or reinforce men's entitlement on women's bodies in many, many other aspects.
There really are. This is not a job, and we need to quit calling it a job. It's nothing like a job. There's no benefits for this. You know, yes, some women have made lots and lots of money, but the majority of women that I have worked with have lost their children, were drug addicted. There were many things that happened to the majority, and we never talk about the majority. We talk about the few, but I've worked with the few who said they chose it, that were still coming in and talking to me, trying to figure out, why do I feel this way?
But before we start talking about women's choices to engage in the sexual exploitation industries, I want to talk about men's choices. Why are men choosing to buy and sell objectified female bodies?
Thank you, Hilla. Well, you mentioned pornography and prostitution. Those are some topics that we definitely want to jump into, and I want to share one of our first questions with all of you, all three of you. Are you concerned and aware of the spread of ideologies that consider prostitution a means of female empowerment? What do you think about that? Are you aware of it? What would you? Go ahead.
Well, I'm sure we all have things to say. I'll start because I'm still unmuted, but I'm looking forward to see what my friend will say to this. Of course, we are aware, and we're seeing it in the context of consistent and very sophisticated backlash. Until the 70s, there was not talk about male violence against women. And there were very right-wing backlash, or there is, that accusing feminists of breaking families and being destructive. But there are also liberal and so-called left backlashes. Some of it look in the shape of degendering male violence against women. If you will Google most sexual assault in North America, they do no longer talk about male violence against women, about rape. That's something that men do to women. It's a phenomena that individual people are doing to individual people. So there is even the term domestic violence. So there is a degendering of male violence against women. That's one thing that we see. We're now facing a very, very sophisticated backlash of erasing the meaning of a woman. There is a shift from understanding that being a woman, being part of the oppressed class, has to do with the material condition of women's lives. And now there is more and more talk about the subjective feelings. And the repackaging, exploitation, and commodification, hypersexualization of women as empowerment and liberating. And it's a very sophisticated backlash because a lot of people will tell you that they are against rape. Rape is very, very denounced in North America or in mainstream society, but they are for the paid rape, which that's the difference between prostitution and rape. Men's pay for exercising the control of women's body, or they rent women's body, which maintain men's entitlement or reinforce men's entitlement on women's bodies in many, many other aspects, including forced motherhood or denial of abortion, or women practicing lesbianism. It's just one version of of men entitlement and men domination on women's body, but it's very sophisticated, this fairly new frame of as empowerment and liberation.
You know, okay.
Vednita, is that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't say in the beginning, but I want to say that I am a survivor, and I have been involved in the sex trade in the 70s. And it was like late 80s that I actually began to do the work. And what I have said earlier is that I've worked with thousands of women over the years. And I'm going to say I've never heard one woman say that she felt empowered by being involved in the sex trade. Never have I heard one woman say that. I've heard women say that this is a form of paid rape. You know, there's many things that have been said that keep sex trafficking and prostitution thriving, that make women believe that this is empowering or that this is a job like no other job. And one of them is, I remember hearing all the time, even as I was growing up, it's the oldest profession. Calling it a profession, like you go to work and you do this and you know what you're doing and you get paid. I call it the oldest oppression against women and girls. And that's exactly what it is. See, this is not Pretty Woman, the movie. And I explain that to women all the time when they come in, because when they came into Breaking Free, they couldn't quite understand why they were so confused and mixed up and why they were hurting so much on the inside. They couldn't understand it because they said, I freely chose this. And it was just like myself. I got involved through the stripping industry when I just graduated from high school. And I thought, this is a way for me to make money and go to college, me and a girlfriend of mine. And I'll tell you, we both started stripping and being sent all over the country and Canada. And so I was able to get out. I realized this isn't what I thought it was. I got out in months. She, on the other hand, we were both 18 years old trying to save up for college. She never got out. The next time I saw her after I got out was when she was 18 years old. I mean, when she was 55 years old. And I asked her what happened to her, and she said she had met a pimp. And so we started kind of, meeting and talking, and she had a lot of issues. She'd been involved in it since she was 18 years old. A year later, her son called me and told me that his mother never woke up. See, these are some of the outcomes of being involved, I say, in that life. She never had a life. And there's so many women that never make it out of the life of prostitution. There really are. This is not a job, and we need to quit calling it a job. It's nothing like a job. There's no benefits for this. Yes, some women have made lots and lots of money, but the majority of women that I have worked with have lost their children, were drug addicted. There were many things that happened to the majority, and we never talk about the majority. We talk about the few, but I've worked with the few who said they chose it, that were still coming in and talking to me, trying to figure out, why do I feel this way? Why am I so mixed up and confused? Prostitution and sex trafficking takes something from an individual. I go to work every day. I can come home and I feel free on the inside. You don't feel that way when you're being bought and sold every day. So this is not a form of empowerment. Not by any means is this empowerment for women.
Thank you very much, Vednita.
I would just like to sort of second all of those points. I come from the political left, and I'm going to just start by saying that men on the political left, women also sometimes, but I'm going to focus on men. Men on the political left abandon their own principles when they use the language of empowerment. The left has always been characterized by not looking at individual choices, but looking at structural conditions. But all of that goes out the window when it comes to sexuality. And I think that's important to recognize, that the left is ignoring its own analytic principles when it endorses sex trafficking. I also just want to emphasize that question of choice. I don't tell women how they should live their lives. But before we start talking about women's choices to engage in the sexual exploitation industries, I want to talk about men's choices. Why are men choosing to buy and sell objectified female bodies? Right? And I am going to repeat that over and over because that is what prostitution, pornography, stripping, massage parlors, the whole gamut of the sexual exploitation industries are men buying and selling objectified female bodies. And the question I would pose to anyone is, I'm going to assume everybody listening here is in favor of gender justice, justice for women, for men, for everyone. And the question is simple. Can anyone imagine a society achieving gender justice when one group of people, that is women, can be routinely bought and sold for the sexual pleasure of another group, that is men? I cannot imagine any society that allows that to happen achieving anything like justice. And that, I think, is not only a feminist principle, it's a left principle. And I'm saddened every day by how the left abandons that principle.
At our 2020 state convention in Bon Air, Georgia, the human rights plank of the platform of the Georgia Green Party was amended to add a new paragraph 12 entitled Support the Nordic Equality Model for State Regulation of Prostitution, reading Greens support a goal of abolishing prostitution with the adoption of Nordic model-inspired reforms which 1. Criminalize pimping and pandering, 2. Protect those prostituted by the industry from prosecution, 3. Offer survivors social support sufficient to an exit strategy, and 4. Leverage public educational resources to address men's sense of entitlement to sexual access to women's bodies. We advocate immediate reform of Georgia's Safe Harbor Act to provide for a presumption that anyone engaged in prostitution or solicitation under state statute and related local ordinances was indeed acting under coercion or deception, and ought, as a consequence of that presumption, to be protected from prosecution. We urge increased fines and fees already authorized for the existing Safe Harbor for Sexually Exploited Children Fund to accommodate the larger client base for social services which these changes will generate, to build new capacity for the battered women's shelters and other social services necessary to facilitate an effective exit from the industry. We urge that the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council develop new protocols and retrain law enforcement officers across the state to treat the mostly women and children involved in prostitution as victims of criminal exploitation rather than as criminal suspects.
Patriarchy is our